Beloved chosen one, listen carefully. This moment is not accidental. You did not click, scroll, or arrive here by chance. Heaven has pressed pause on the noise of your life to speak directly to you, Something is shifting in the unseen realm, and your spirit has already felt it. You've noticed the restlessness, the strange calm mixed with anticipation, the sense that a chapter is closing even though nothing outward has fully changed yet. This is divine timing activating. God is aligning events, people, and provision around you. And one of those alignments is a wealthy soulmate, not wealthy by the world's shallow definition alone, but wealthy in capacity, covering, wisdom, and responsibility. You were never meant to struggle forever. Yes, you were shaped in struggle, refined in isolation, and trained in endurance, but not abandoned there. The delay was not denial. The silence was not absence. Heaven was preparing two paths at once, yours and theirs. While you were learning how to survive without help, God was teaching someone else how to provide without pride. While you were learning discernment through disappointment, God was building someone with the discipline to steward resources without corruption. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. You may have wondered why relationships before this one felt draining, unequal, or unsafe. Why you always had to be the strong one. Why love felt like labor. Why you kept attracting people who needed saving instead of partnership. Chosen one. God was protecting you. Had you been given this kind of covering too early, and it would have crushed you or distracted you from your calling. Timing matters in the kingdom. A blessing out of season becomes a burden. Right now, there is a spiritual acceleration happening. You are stepping into a phase where provision meets purpose. This coming connection is not about dependence, it is about alignment. Not about being rescued, but being reinforced. God is not sending someone to replace your strength. He is sending someone who respects it, matches it, and covers what you cannot carry alone. This soulmate understands covenant. They understand responsibility. They understand that wealth is not for display, but for assignment. You may feel unqualified, thinking, why would God send someone like that to me? But that thought reveals how little you see yourself the way heaven sees you. You survived what should have broken you. You remained soft in a world that tried to harden you. You kept your faith when nothing made sense. That alone qualifies you. Heaven does not pair carelessly. God does not connect souls randomly. When He sends provision, it is because there is purpose that must be funded, protected, and sustained. There is also a warning here, and you must hear it gently but clearly. Do not sabotage this season by rushing, doubting, or settling. Delay is lifting, but discernment must remain. Not every generous person is sent by God. Not every wealthy individual is safe. The one God sends will not just impress you, they will bring peace. Their presence will quiet chaos, not amplify it. Their generosity will not come with control. Their leadership will not threaten your identity. This is how you will know. The Word of God declares in the book of Proverbs in chapter 10, verse 22. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and He adds no sorrow with it. This is critical for you to understand. What God sends does not come with hidden pain. What God provides does not demand your soul in exchange. The wealthy soulmate assigned to you will not cost you your peace, your obedience, or your identity. If sorrow is attached, it is not from Him. This scripture is your filter. Let it guard you. This is the posture required now: faith without panic, expectancy without obsession. When you remain steady, heaven moves swiftly, and when you resist fear, divine order accelerates. God is not late. He is precise. Chosen one. This message is also a call to alignment. Guard your heart. Guard your habits. Guard your mouth. Speak abundance, not survival. Do not keep rehearsing stories of abandonment when heaven is writing a story of covering. Do not identify with lack when God is transitioning you into stewardship. The enemy wants you to disqualify yourself at the door of your blessing by believing you are too much, too broken, or too behind. That lie ends now. If this word resonates in your spirit, don't ignore it. Engage with it. As a sign of agreement and faith, take a moment to like this message. Share it with someone who needs confirmation. Leave a comment declaring your alignment, and subscribe so you stay connected to what God is unfolding here. This is not about an algorithm, it is about obedience and spiritual positioning. At the end of this section, I want you to comment the number 888, not as superstition, but as a declaration that overflow, provision, and kingdom abundance are being released into your life in God's order and God's way. Let it be your yes to divine provision. You are not waiting on love. Love is being prepared for you. You are not chasing provision. Provision is being assigned to your future. Stay ready, stay humble, stay obedient. This is only the beginning. And hear this clearly. Chosen one, when this person enters your life, it will not feel chaotic or rushed. It will feel ordered, grounded, and quietly powerful, like something clicking into place that heaven designed long ago just for you. Remain watchful and grateful in advance. What God is sending is not just for comfort today, but for assignment tomorrow. Walk softly, stay obedient, and let God complete what He has already begun. You remember the night Jacob was left alone. No crowd, no noise, no safety net. In the book of Genesis, chapter 32, Jacob sends everyone ahead of him, his family, his possessions, his future, and he stays behind in the dark. That is when it happens. A man wrestles with him until daybreak. No explanation, no warning, just struggle in the night. And before the sun rises, Jacob walks away changed forever. His hip struck, his strength altered, his identity renamed. That night was not punishment, it was preparation. Jacob had spent his entire life striving, grabbing heels, bargaining, manipulating outcomes to survive. He knew how to outwork, outthink, and outmaneuver. But there came a moment when God did not want Jacob's cleverness anymore. God wanted Jacob's surrender, and surrender always comes when strength runs out. You know that night. Not literally wrestling an angel, but the night when you were exhausted from holding everything together. The season where you did all the right things and still felt behind. The moment when you realized effort alone was no longer enough. Like Jacob, you were strong, but strong in the wrong way. Independent, guarded, used to carrying your own weight because no one else would. So God touched the hip. In biblical times, the hip represented strength, stability, the place where power flowed. When Jacob's hip was struck, it was not to cripple him, it was to interrupt his old way of surviving. God did not break Jacob to stop him from moving forward. He broke him to stop him from running ahead without God. From that night on, Jacob walked with a limp, but he also walked with authority. The limp became proof that he had encountered God personally. He could no longer rely on speed, strategy, or manipulation. He had to learn how to walk differently, slower, humbler, more aware. Scripture records this moment clearly in the book of Genesis, chapter 32, verse 28. Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Notice the order. The struggle comes first. The wounding happens in the struggle, and then identity is spoken. God did not rename Jacob before the night. He renamed him after Jacob stopped trying to win by his own strength. This is where many chosen ones misunderstand their pain. You think the breaking disqualified you. In truth, It redefined you. Before the breaking, you were surviving. After the breaking, you were ready for covenant. There are things God cannot release into your life while you are still operating from survival mode. You were strong because you had to be. You learned to handle everything alone because help never came on time. But the future God is opening for you, especially the kind of partnership and provision He intends, cannot be sustained by a lone warrior mindset. A wealthy soulmate is not sent to someone who still believes they must control everything to be safe. That is why the breaking came first. Jacob could not step into peace with Esau, protection for his family, or the fulfillment of God's promise until something inside him changed. Likewise, you could not receive divine covering while still operating from fear of abandonment, fear of lack, or fear of disappointment. God had to meet you in the night where no one could rescue you and touch the place you depended on most. This is why some of your recent seasons felt humbling, slow, or confusing. You were not losing strength, you were losing false strength. The kind that looks impressive but keeps you isolated. The kind that says, "I don't need anyone," when in reality, God designed covenant. In everyday life, this breaking looked ordinary. You stopped forcing connections. You stopped over-explaining yourself. You stopped rushing decisions just to avoid loneliness. You became more selective, more grounded, more patient. People may have thought you were withdrawing, but heaven was repositioning you. Someone who has never been broken will misuse provision. Someone who has never wrestled with God will confuse wealth with control. But someone who has been touched in the night understands stewardship. They understand that resources are meant to cover, not dominate, to protect, not replace God. That limp you carry now, the caution, the discernment, the slower trust, is not weakness. It is evidence that you have encountered God beyond surface faith. You are no longer wrestling people for validation. You have already wrestled with God for identity. And because of that, what is coming next will not break you. Jacob limped into the morning, but he also walked into reconciliation, promise, and inheritance. The limp did not delay his destiny. It aligned him with it. So if you feel slower now, more intentional, more grounded, do not despise that season. That is the posture of someone ready for covenant, not chaos. Ready for covering, not survival. You already fought the hardest battle. It happened in the night. Now you move from understanding to practice. Revelation without application becomes frustration, but revelation with obedience becomes alignment. This section is about something very practical. Something you can do in ordinary life while paying bills, making decisions, interacting with people, and planning your future. It is the discipline of separation, learning to distinguish between what you have and what has been entrusted to you. Many chosen ones stay stuck because they treat everything in their life as ownership instead of stewardship. They say, "My strength, my money, my time, my gifts, my relationships." But in the kingdom, there is a difference between possession and assignment. Some things you have because God allows you to hold them. Other things you carry because God intends to use them for something beyond you. This is where the practice begins, mentally and spiritually separating the have from the given. Start with your abilities. You may have intelligence, resilience, creativity, leadership, or emotional depth. Ask yourself in daily life, am I using this only to survive, or am I allowing God to direct where it's applied? When everything is used only for self-preservation, fear increases. When something is consciously offered back to God, peace increases. You stop squeezing life so tightly. Then move to resources. Even if you don't consider yourself wealthy yet, You still have provision at some level: income, skills, access, opportunity. Practice saying, even quietly, "This is not just mine to protect, it is mine to steward." This changes how you spend, how you save, and how you give. You become calmer with money, not reckless, but no longer anxious. Stewardship attracts more responsibility. Anxiety repels it. Next is time. This is where many people blur the line. You have time, but time is also given. When every hour is treated as owned, it gets wasted or burned. When time is treated as entrusted, you become selective. You say no without guilt. You rest without shame. You stop explaining your pace to people who don't carry your calling. This alone changes your emotional health. Now apply this separation to relationships. Some people are in your life because you chose them. Others are in your life because God allowed them for a season. Practice releasing what was seasonal without resentment. Not every connection is meant to be carried forward. Letting go does not mean failure, it means clarity. The wealthy soulmate God sends will not compete with your calling, they will recognize it. This discipline also protects you from entitlement. When you know something is entrusted, you stop demanding outcomes. You stop saying, "God owes me." Instead, you say, "How do you want this used?" That shift alone matures your spirit faster than years of waiting. The ancient wisdom echoes this principle clearly, as revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 9. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. This is not just about money, it is about order. First fruits means acknowledging God's ownership before enjoyment begins. When you practice that internally, not performatively, you stop fearing loss. You understand that what is truly from God cannot be taken prematurely. Here is a simple daily practice at the start of the day. Name one thing you have and one thing that has been given. You might say, "I have skills, but my opportunity is given." Or, "I have emotions, but my influence is given." This quiet habit retrains your thinking. Over time, you notice less pressure to prove yourself and more confidence to wait. This separation also prepares you for partnership. Someone who confuses ownership with identity will cling. Someone who understands stewardship can love without fear. God does not join two people who are both grasping. He joins those who can hold without tightening their grip. Before moving forward, there is one small but meaningful act I want you to do, not for performance, but for alignment. In the comments, write, "I steward wisely." This is not a slogan, it is a declaration. By writing it, you are choosing responsibility over anxiety, trust over control, and preparation over impatience. Words shape posture, and posture determines readiness. You are not being delayed, you are being trained. The separation between what you have and what is given is subtle, but it is powerful. Those who master it are entrusted with more peace, more influence, and yes, more provision. Walk forward with that understanding. When you write, "I steward wisely," you are saying you no longer confuse urgency with importance. You acknowledge that not everything needs an immediate reaction. Wisdom shows up in pacing, knowing when to move, when to wait, and when to let God handle what you cannot control. "I steward wisely" also means you recognize responsibility without pressure. You accept what is in your hands today without reaching anxiously for tomorrow. This mindset keeps you grounded. It protects you from burnout, comparison, and the need to prove your worth through constant action. By declaring, "I steward wisely," you are choosing trust over fear. You stop assuming that holding tighter guarantees safety. Instead, you believe that obedience sustains what force never could. This posture creates emotional stability and spiritual clarity in everyday decisions. Finally, I steward wisely signals readiness. It tells heaven you can be trusted with increase because you value order more than attention, faithfulness more than speed. Those who steward wisely do not just receive more. They keep what they receive without losing themselves. And as this understanding settles into you, remember this wisdom is quiet, patient, and consistent. When stewardship becomes your habit, provision no longer overwhelms you, it finds you ready. There is a season when God stops pushing and starts positioning. You may not hear loud instructions anymore, but you notice subtle rearrangements like furniture being moved in a dark room before the lights turn on. This is that season. Nothing feels rushed, yet everything feels intentional, like a river narrowing before it deepens. Your life is becoming more focused, more ordered, more prepared. Think of a vineyard in early spring. From the outside, it looks bare, even cut back. Branches lie trimmed, vines shortened, fruit nowhere in sight. To an untrained eye, it looks like loss, but the farmer knows what he is doing. He cuts not to harm, but to strengthen. He removes what drains life so what remains can carry more weight. You are in that vineyard moment. God has been pruning distractions, habits, and even relationships not to isolate you, but to increase your capacity. Carrying provision, covering, and covenant requires space. It requires structure. It requires roots deeper than appearances. That is why some doors closed quietly. That is why some voices faded without drama. The silence was not rejection, it was concentration. Imagine a ship being prepared for a long voyage. Before it ever leaves the harbor, weight is redistributed, cargo is inspected. Weak planks are reinforced. The ship doesn't argue, it submits to inspection because the open sea is unforgiving. In the same way, God is reinforcing you for waters you have never sailed before. The wealthy soulmate, the provision, the expanded responsibility, these are not shallow waters. They require readiness, not excitement alone. You may feel like you are standing at a threshold, suitcase packed, waiting for a signal. But heaven is not hurried. God cares less about speed and more about stability. A fast blessing with a weak foundation collapses. A steady blessing builds legacy. The ancient wisdom speaks clearly here, as the Spirit spoke through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 37, verse 23. The steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord, and He delights in their way. Ordered steps do not always feel dramatic. Often they feel repetitive, quiet, even boring. But every ordered step places you exactly where you need to be when the time comes. You are not missing anything. You are being aligned. Think of light passing through a lens. When scattered, it warms. When focused, it cuts. God is focusing you. That is why your tolerance for chaos is lower now. That is why you no longer find comfort in busyness. That is why you crave clarity over noise. Focused light is powerful, but it requires discipline. This is also why community matters in this phase. Not crowds, but alignment. Messages that sharpen you. Voices that remind you of truth when patience feels thin. Staying connected to reminders like this is not about dependency, it is about calibration. Sometimes you need to hear the same truth again to stay steady while it takes root. If this message has helped you see your season more clearly, take a moment to boldly but simply click like. It helps keep this kind of clarity visible for others who are quietly preparing too. And if someone comes to mind who is in a similar pruning season, share this with them, not to convince, but to comfort. Finally, If you want to remain connected to messages that help you navigate preparation without panic, subscribe and stay with us as this journey continues. These small actions are not noise, they are alignment. Picture an eagle preparing to fly higher. It does not flap wildly. It waits for the right current, then stretches its wings and lets the wind do the lifting. You are learning how to trust the current instead of exhausting yourself with effort. That trust is maturity. The days ahead will not all feel spectacular, but they will feel stable. You will make decisions with less anxiety. You will notice that what once tempted you no longer pulls you. You are becoming heavier in the right way, grounded, anchored, ready to carry more without tipping over. This is not a waiting room. It is a training ground, and every quiet adjustment you allow now becomes strength you don't have to force later. Stay present, stay teachable, stay aligned. The next chapter will not require you to rush only to be ready. You may not see the full picture yet, but each small act of obedience is adding weight to your foundation. Quiet faith, practiced daily, builds a strength that noise can never imitate. This is how stability is formed before visibility arrives. There will be moments when nothing seems to change outwardly, yet inwardly everything is aligning, like roots growing underground. The most important work is happening where no applause exists. Trust what is developing beneath the surface. Do not measure progress by speed. Measure it by peace. If your decisions are calmer, your reactions softer, and your patience deeper, you are moving forward. Growth that lasts rarely announces itself loudly at first. You are learning to stand without leaning on urgency. This balance will matter later, when others depend on your steadiness. God is shaping you into someone who can carry responsibility without losing joy or clarity. When the time comes to step fully into what is prepared, you will recognize it not by pressure, but by quiet confidence. Readiness feels settled. And when it arrives, you will know this season was not slow. It was precise. Carry this awareness with you into the ordinary moments. Faithfulness there is what unlocks extraordinary outcomes. When preparation meets timing, nothing feels forced. It simply fits, like the final piece placed exactly where it belongs. There comes a point in every calling where silence becomes instruction. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of trust. You are no longer being corrected loudly or redirected sharply. Instead, God watches how you move when no one is adjusting you from the outside. This is the stage where internal order matters more than outward motion. You may notice something subtle, your spirit no longer rushes. You still desire progress, but you no longer chase it. This shift is important. Provision does not land on people who panic under pressure. Covering does not stay with those who confuse speed with success. God stabilizes before he supplies. Many people believe wealth changes people. In truth, it reveals them. That is why preparation happens quietly. You are being trained to hold without gripping, to receive without losing clarity, to share space without losing identity. These are not romantic qualities, they are structural ones. They determine whether a blessing becomes sustainable. This is also why God has been refining how you see value. You are no longer impressed by noise. You no longer mistake generosity for character. You no longer assume that someone's resources equal their readiness. This discernment is essential. A wealthy soulmate sent by God is not defined by how much they have, but by how they handle what they've been entrusted with. Provision in the kingdom always follows order, not perfection order. The ability to prioritize, the ability to say no without guilt, the ability to wait without resentment. These are signs that someone can share life, resources, and responsibility without collapsing under them. In everyday life, This looks unremarkable. You plan more carefully. You speak less impulsively. You rest without apologizing. You stop explaining your standards. None of this is dramatic, but heaven notices. Stability attracts stability. You may wonder why certain opportunities slowed down just as you felt ready. This is not resistance. It is filtration. God does not rush alignment. He ensures compatibility. What is coming must fit your life, not disrupt it. The wisdom of Scripture addresses this season with clarity. As the Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2, "Now it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful." Faithfulness is not measured by intensity, but by consistency. How you manage your energy, how you honor your boundaries, how you steward your peace. These are the tests that come before expansion. This is also why your emotional world feels calmer now. You are no longer negotiating your worth through outcomes. You are no longer tying your identity to timelines. This detachment is healthy. It allows provision to arrive without pressure. A wealthy soulmate cannot partner with chaos. They are drawn to clarity, order, and emotional maturity. The work happening in you now is not just for your benefit, it is compatibility training. God aligns paths that can walk together without one dragging the other. As this understanding settles, I want you to mark this moment with a simple acknowledgement. In the comments, write the number 808. This number reflects flow, balance, and continual provision. What comes in is managed wisely. What goes out is intentional. By writing it, you are not asking for more. You are affirming readiness for shared responsibility and sustained blessing. This is not about manifestation. It is about maturity. When heaven sees someone who can hold structure, it entrusts them with expansion. You are not waiting for provision to arrive. Provision is waiting for structure to finish forming, and that work is nearly complete. Stay aligned. Stay faithful. What is sent by God will arrive without confusion and stay without strain. The number 808 speaks of flow that is intentional, not accidental. It reflects a life where provision moves in and out with purpose. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is hoarded. What comes to you is managed wisely, then released responsibly, creating a rhythm heaven can trust. 8 represents abundance that is circular, not explosive. It is not a sudden surge followed by collapse, but a steady return. When you see 808, it signals that increase is meant to continue because the foundation beneath it is stable and disciplined. The 0 in the center matters. It represents God at the core of provision. Not money first, not people first, but divine order anchoring everything. Without the 0, the 8s fall into imbalance. With it, abundance remains clean and aligned. 808 also reflects balance between receiving and giving. You are no longer afraid to receive, nor pressured to give beyond wisdom. This balance protects relationships, finances, and emotional energy. It keeps generosity from becoming depletion and provision from becoming control. When you acknowledge 808, you are affirming maturity with resources. You are saying you understand that wealth is not proof of favor, but a tool for assignment. This understanding is what allows provision to stay without bringing pride or fear. Spiritually, 808 marks readiness for shared stewardship. It signals that you can walk alongside someone else sharing responsibility, vision, and resources without losing yourself. This is critical for covenant, not just comfort. Finally, 808 confirms continuity. What God is preparing is not temporary. It is meant to last, to circulate, and to support more than just you. When this number appears, it is not hype. It is heaven recognizing structure that can sustain blessing. The number 808 also reminds you that provision is meant to move, not stagnate. When resources circulate with wisdom, they remain healthy. Stagnation breeds fear, but flow guided by order creates confidence and long-term stability. Finally, 808 signals completion of a preparation cycle. You are not starting from nothing. You are continuing from discipline already formed. This number affirms that what comes next will build naturally on what you have already learned. There is a quiet responsibility that comes just before arrival. Not arrival of a person only, but arrival of a season. This responsibility is invisible to most people, but it is weighty. It is the phase where nothing new has appeared yet. Yet everything depends on how you carry yourself now. This is where obedience becomes internal, restraint becomes wisdom, and purity becomes clarity rather than performance. Many people think preparation ends when pain ends. In truth, preparation deepens when peace begins. When life finally calms down, distractions become more tempting. When pressure lifts, discipline is tested. This is why this phase matters. God is watching how you move when you are no longer desperate. Your role before arrival is not to chase, signal, or anticipate obsessively. It is to stay clean in posture. Clean does not mean perfect. It means undivided. Your attention is no longer scattered across too many desires. Your energy is no longer leaking into places that don't lead forward. Restraint becomes central here. You learn to pause before responding. You don't say yes just because you can. You don't entertain conversations that drain you simply to feel wanted. You don't explain yourself to people who have not earned access. This restraint is not coldness. It is stewardship of presence. Obedience in this season is subtle. It may look like staying where you are instead of forcing a move. It may look like maintaining a routine when boredom whispers that you deserve more excitement. It may look like honoring boundaries even when loneliness tempts compromise. These small obediences form spiritual muscle. Purity, too, takes on a deeper meaning now. It is no longer about avoiding obvious wrongs. It is about alignment. What do you consume mentally? What do you dwell on emotionally? What narratives do you rehearse internally? Purity of mind shapes clarity of direction. A person preparing for covenant cannot afford constant inner noise. You may notice that your tolerance for confusion has dropped. Mixed signals frustrate you more than before. Inconsistency feels heavier. This is not impatience, it is readiness. When God prepares someone for partnership and provision, He sharpens their discernment. You begin to recognize what fits and what doesn't without needing explanation. This season also teaches you how to carry expectation without pressure. Expectation says, I trust what is coming. Pressure says, I must ensure it happens. One is faith. The other is fear dressed as responsibility. You are being trained to hold faith without gripping outcomes. There is also an internal cleansing happening. Old narratives surface not to trap you, but to be released. Beliefs like I always have to do everything myself, or if I don't control this, it will fall apart, are losing authority. These beliefs once kept you safe, but they cannot accompany you forward. You are learning to receive support without suspicion, to accept stability without boredom, to trust provision without waiting for it to disappear. These are learned skills, especially for someone who has lived in survival mode for a long time. Scripture speaks gently but firmly into this posture. As was spoken in the sacred text of old, in the book of Romans chapter 12, verse 1, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. This is not about suffering. It is about availability. A living sacrifice is present, aware, and surrendered daily. This verse reframes obedience not as loss, but as alignment. Your daily choices are worship now. You may feel less driven by impulse and more by clarity. You may walk away from things you once chased. You may choose rest over reaction. None of this is accidental. It is the posture of someone whose future requires stability. Before arrival, God often teaches stillness. Stillness does not mean inactivity. It means action without anxiety, movement without panic, decisions made from wholeness instead of fear of lack. This is also why secrecy increases. Not everything needs to be shared. Not everyone needs updates. Some things grow best in quiet soil. You are allowed to protect what is forming. Your role now is simple but demanding: stay aligned. Do not rush. Do not retreat. Do not contaminate peace with unnecessary conflict. Let obedience remain quiet. Let restraint remain firm. Let purity remain internal. What is coming does not require you to be louder. It requires you to be steadier. And you are becoming exactly that. As this steadiness settles in, you may notice how little you need to prove now. Silence feels safer than explanation. Consistency feels stronger than urgency. This is not withdrawal from life. It is alignment with it. When inner order forms, outer chaos loses its power to provoke or distract you. You are learning that readiness is not loud confidence but quiet certainty. It shows up in how you pause before decisions, how you listen more than you speak, and how you no longer chase reassurance. This certainty cannot be rushed into being. It is grown through repeated faithful choices. There will be moments when old patterns try to resurface, reminding you of how you used to cope. When that happens, do not judge yourself. Simply return to the posture you've learned. Stability is not the absence of temptation. It is the ability to remain grounded when temptation passes through. Carry this posture forward gently. What is ahead will require presence, patience, and clarity more than effort. You are not being shaped for survival anymore, but for sustainability. And that kind of life is built slowly, deliberately, and with great care. There is a moment just before dawn when the world holds its breath. The sky is no longer night, but not yet morning. Birds are quiet, streets are still. That space between darkness and light is where truth often settles, not announced, not dramatic, but certain. This is where you are now. You are. You are no longer asking who you are becoming. You are beginning to live as that person. The urgency that once drove you has softened into clarity. The hunger that once felt sharp has become steady. You are not chasing signs anymore. You are recognizing alignment as it unfolds. This final section is not about pushing you forward. It is about inviting you to remain. Remain attentive, remain present, remain grounded in what has already been shaped within you. Because the future you are stepping into will not reward haste, it will reward steadiness. That wealthy soulmate you have sensed is not arriving to complete you. They are arriving to walk alongside what is already whole. They are not sent to rescue you from life, but to share responsibility for what life is building. Covering does not replace strength, it protects direction. Provision does not remove effort, it gives it room to breathe. You can feel this truth now. The fantasy has faded, but the vision has sharpened. You are no longer looking for intensity. You are looking for resonance. Something that doesn't overwhelm your nervous system, but calms it. Something that does not compete with your calling, but cooperates with it. This is how divine partnerships feel when they approach quiet recognition rather than loud attraction. Familiarity without history. Safety without control. The ancient words speak gently into this stage. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 29, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Rest is not the absence of movement. It is movement without resistance. What is coming will not demand you abandon who you are, it will ask you to bring it fully. This is also why reflection matters now. You don't rush past what you've learned. You carry it forward like a compass. The patience you practiced, the restraint you developed, the clarity you protected, these are not temporary disciplines. They are permanent upgrades. Think of this message like a quiet fire at the edge of a long journey. You stopped here not to stay forever, but to warm your hands, to gather strength, to remember direction. When you move again, you will do so with less weight on your shoulders and more trust in your steps. And if in this moment you feel that something here mattered, if a sentence stayed with you, if an image softened something inside you, there is a gentle choice available. Not an obligation, a gesture. If this message felt like a lamp on your path, you may choose to let others walk by its light, sharing it as one would pass a candle. Quietly, without explanation. If you wish to keep returning to this kind of stillness and clarity, you may choose to stay connected, the way one keeps a seat by the fire for future evenings. And if a single thought rose within you as you listened, you may place it gently in the comments, not to announce yourself, but to mark a moment you don't want to forget. None of these are requirements. They are invitations, like doors left open, not pushed. What matters most is that you leave here lighter than you arrived, not because answers were handed to you, but because you remembered something you already knew. You are not late, you are not behind, and you are not unprepared. The road ahead does not need to be explained. It only needs to be walked one steady step at a time. And when you do walk forward, do so with this knowing: what is sent by God will recognize you without confusion, meet you without pressure, and stay without strain. As you move on from here, let the quiet remain with you. Not everything meaningful needs a reaction. Some truths work best when they are carried silently, shaping how you listen, choose, and rest in the days that follow. You may notice life does not change all at once, yet you change within it. Your responses soften, your patience deepens. These shifts are not small. They are signs that something lasting is being formed beneath the surface. There is no need to rush towards certainty. Trust grows through lived experience, not conclusions. Allow understanding to unfold naturally, like light increasing without effort as morning settles into the sky. Whatever stays with you from this moment is enough. Walk forward gently, without pressure to define everything. Growth does not require announcements. It reveals itself quietly through steadiness, clarity, and peace. Carry this stillness into your next conversations and decisions. Let it guide how you speak, how you listen, and how you choose what deserves your energy. Calm discernment will protect what is forming. Some days will feel ordinary, even quiet. Do not mistake that for stagnation. Ordinary days are often where alignment proves itself through consistency and care. When questions arise again, return to patience rather than urgency. What is meant for you does not require chasing. It recognizes you in motion, steady and unforced. As you reach the end of this message, there is no urgency placed on you, no demand to decide, no pressure to react. What has been spoken is meant to settle, not rush. Some words are seeds. They do their work quietly, over time, often long after the moment is past. You may not remember every image or every idea, but pay attention to what lingered, what caused you to pause, what felt familiar in a way that was calm, not alarming. That is usually where truth touches something already alive inside you. Keep that. Let it stay with you without forcing meaning onto it. This ending is intentionally open, because growth does not close neatly. It continues while you return to ordinary days, conversations, and decisions. Nothing here requires you to change everything at once. Sometimes the most important shifts are subtle. A calmer response, a clearer boundary, a deeper sense of patience where anxiety used to live. If this message was helpful to you, you are free to share it with someone who may be walking a similar path. Not to persuade them, not to prove anything, simply as an offering. And if you choose not to share it, that is just as valid. What matters is not circulation, but integration. You are also allowed to take only what resonates and leave the rest. Wisdom does not demand agreement. It invites reflection. Hold on to what felt steady, what felt grounding, what felt honest. Those are often the parts that continue working quietly long after the words end. Nothing here insists that you arrive immediately. It only reminds you that preparation, clarity, and patience are not wasted seasons. They are shaping seasons. Where you go next does not need to be announced. It only needs to be lived carefully, steadily, and in your own time. And that, for now, is enough.